are coming to you live from $1 Million Studios. Your boys, Chris Speezak,
a.k.a. the White Bronco.
And the benchmark of professional wrestling, Mr. Silky Baines.
That make me the black driver.
Speez and the Benchmark Show on a Thursday night, November 1st, 2018. No, November 1st already.
I know, which is Thanksgiving coming up. Halloween kind of got shit on because of the weather.
Yeah, it was shitty weather down here in Houston for all of you who are curious. Rained all night long, but, you know, we still had some kids coming by doing their thing.
I think we had one. It was one of my kids' friends, which I was like, we didn't buy candy.
It was a crazy night.
We don't do that.
Yes.
I made them cupcakes, which, great at cooking. Very not much a good baker.
Okay, then.
Fuck those cupcakes up.
Speez and the Benchmark Show. As we said, we thank all of you for joining us here on Periscope or over on the YouTubes. Hope you'll consider subscribing to the show. Or if you're listening to us after the fact on the podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, anywhere you can hear your favorite programs, you can catch the Speez and the Benchmark Show. If you want to chip into the cause here, you can continue to do so on Periscope. Keep those super hearts coming.
Juanito just dropped some
ever
off.
Closer to super broadcaster status. And thanks to all of you who are sharing the show already.
Juanito, Litmanis, and Jeff Cross already dropped super
Already
hearts.
dropping super hearts. We love you guys.
Keep
it's
them
fantastic.
coming.
And of course,
these bills need to get paid.
Indeed they do. And of course, you can hit us up at the tip jar, tinyurl.com/SB tip jar if you want to hit us up there. And we got a special guest coming for you shortly.
Yes, we do.
Ruthless Ryan Davidson from Booker T's Reality of Wrestling promotion here in Houston. He's going to be joining us here shortly, so that'll be fantastic. Fresh off his tour of Japan with DDT Pro Wrestling.
Which is pretty cool.
That's very cool. Anytime you can go overseas, man.
I know.
And get in front of that crowd, that'd be amazing. So, just want to remind everybody before we get to Ryan Davidson about our giveaway that we got. Giving away some free shit as we are...
Because we are not above paying for loyalty.
No, we certainly are not. So, once again, for those of you who missed it, in honor of this past weekend's Evolution show, which was very good, very well received. Got a couple of women's autographs for you, something past, something present. So, first and foremost, you can snag yourself the Vicky Guerrero autographed 8x10.
Yep.
Courtesy of the Benchmark here.
That's from my collection at Castle Benchmark.
At Castle Benchmark. And, of course, the autographed Topps Heritage card of Sasha Banks, the boss. You can get both of those. And all you got to do is head on over to the YouTube channel, tinyurl.com/SpeezBenchmark. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you're entered. That's it. We got a pinned tweet at our Twitter account, at Speez Benchmark. Just take a little screenshot of your subscription there, and that's it. You're entered. And we will draw the winner on Monday night following Raw. So somebody's going to win some free shit, Silky.
Free shit.
And that's definitely good.
$3.99, my favorite price.
There you go. There you go. So let's give a shout out to the folks joining us here. And again, folks, if you want to get in on the conversation tonight, we're going to tailor it mostly towards our guest, Ryan Davidson. 832-937-4559 is the phone number.
Or 832-93-SILKY.
832-93-SILKY if you want to get in.
And shout out to the people on Periscope, Alistair Fiend, Babaruski, Mac Diesel, Adam Awesome, Litmanis, Jeff Cross, and like 5 other motherfuckers we can't see.
A whole bunch of folks we can't see. Alistair Fiend and Juanito also over on the YouTubes as well. So welcome to you guys. So anything else we got to get to very briefly? Of course, the news for those of you who haven't heard, we already mentioned on Monday that John Cena will not be in attendance at WWE's Crown Jewel tomorrow. And we've also heard now that
Daniel Bryan
will not be there as well. Of course, he fought for. I was about to say he defended the WWE Championship on Tuesday night, but he actually fought for it. Came up short against AJ Styles. Good match.
Yeah.
Especially for a free match. And thank you again for the Super Hearts, Mac Diesel. Hello to Bianca Rose, our good friend. Glad to have you with us. So, yes, no Daniel Bryan. Oh, I also found out today that we are going to have a U.S. Championship match on a pre-show for Crown Jewel. It will be Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Rusev for the U.S. Championship. So they're moving forward. And of course, everybody freaked out because Hulk Hogan is on the show now.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan is on the show. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't quite know because
I mean, I don't feel like if it's a move to recap some of the star power that they lost because Cena and Bryan aren't going.
I think
it's a bad move. I mean, he's not wrestling, so I've never been a fan of like the host shit. Like, you don't host a fucking wrestling show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, of course, the social justice warriors, of course, are all, let's make a bad show worse by bringing the racist guy over there.
I know.
He'll fit right in over there in Saudi Arabia.
I mean,
Murderers and racists.
There we go.
WWE, everybody. Here we go. So, I don't know. There's a lot of shady characters in wrestling, not only at the WWE level, but on all the way down. And it's interesting that certain people, we can look past certain things, and certain things we can't. And I speak on Hulk Hogan as a black man.
Okay.
Speak on it, Silky. They want to know.
I don't really give a fuck. I mean, if we're in the honesty bubble, I mean, you can't deny whether he's racist or not. You can't deny the contribution in that all of us wouldn't be here talking about wrestling. It wouldn't have gotten to a level to get where we are today if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. So you can't dismiss that. But, I mean, do I personally care? No. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of fucking racists in wrestling.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Most definitely. There's no question about that. Before we bring on our special guest, let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
I say get it out of the way, but it's something we do because we like to do it, and that's give a shout-out to our friend Travis Wallach over at Prestige Properties, 713-882-4609, as we continue to grow here at the Speez and the Benchmark Show.
Yeah, when we try to do $1 Million Studios West, that's who we call it.
That's who we call it. TravW777 at gmail.com is the email address. I was going to say the website, but the email address. PrestigePropertiesTX1.com, the website, if you want to get on there. And again, folks, if you're not in this area, which I know a lot of you aren't, give a shout out to somebody who is. You know somebody down here.
Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody from Texas, for Christ's sake.
Exactly.
I mean, we're all
Greatest
over
state
the
on
place.
earth.
So
Not the greatest football team, but greatest state.
we're getting there. 5 in a row. Going to make it 6. We have a shit schedule the rest of the way, but we're getting sidetracked. Let's keep talking about Travis. Travis is a good man. Always a great help to us here at the program, as is his old man Cooper. And we just appreciate what he does. So shout out to Prestige Properties. Travis Wallach, 713-882-4609. Proud sponsors of the Speez and the Benchmark Show. So, Silky, without any further ado, do we have anything else that we absolutely need to get to? Or can we?
Let's go ahead and bring him on.
Let's go ahead and bring on our very special guest here. As we mentioned earlier, he is a regular on Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, fresh off his tour overseas in Japan with DDT Pro Wrestling. We are very happy to be joined by ruthless Ryan Davidson here on the Speez and the Benchmark Show. Ryan, thank you so much for making the time for us, sir. How are you?
El Blanco Bronco. It is very good to be here.
Yeah, you go.
From now on.
You like that?
Not White Bronco. You're Blanco Bronco.
Well,
there you go.
It's like this every week. Silky, twice a week, as a matter of fact. Silky comes up with
One time I called him a human jar of mayonnaise.
That's right.
Ooh.
It was great.
Yeah, we're going to have our year-end show where we just show highlights of everything that happened this year. I'm just going to put together a collage of all the ridiculous nicknames that you've come up with.
Yeah.
White Devil.
I did do that.
Human jar of mayonnaise. Everything like that. So, enough of that mess. So, Ryan, good to have you on the show, sir. First question I got to get to, and we had one of your contemporaries, a guy that you have clashed with many a time here on the program not too long ago, Mysterious Q. And one of the first questions that we asked him, and I'd like to start with this as well, is obviously when you work underneath a guy like Booker T, everybody hears that name and they immediately think, well, that's got to be a huge advantage to you. I mean, this is a guy who's done just about everything there is to do in professional wrestling. Can you talk a little bit about what it's been like working under Book and what he's done to help you along in your career?
It's been a hell of an experience, man. It really, really has. And it's obviously the great definitely weighs out any of the negatives. And, when you're under the learning tree of a WWE Hall of Famer, man, you can't help but get better. You can't help but gain all this, priceless knowledge, but yet it's worth so much, And I'm extremely grateful, man. And, I could tell you being on the road and traveling across the country and even being in Japan, when people found out that I was trained by Booker T, they looked at me a different way. It wasn't just my work. It wasn't just what I did inside the ring, but it was also on the fact of, whoever trains you, whoever you get brought up by in the business pretty much. Like that holds a lot of weight to it. You know what I mean? And yeah, very grateful to be underbooked, man. So it's been awesome. An experience to say the least, for sure.
And we're already getting comments in the chat room here about the black eye. So let's go ahead and talk about that. What's going on with the left eye there? It looks like you took a right hook there.
Well, I told Silky right when we got on this call, I was like, look, man, when you're trying to go hard, you train hard. And sometimes it's a little too hard. So that's I'll leave it at that. Did anybody hit me with the left hand? No, but someone's elbow actually just magically happened to hit me right in the eye at the right time. So it's all good. But, you know, Silky knows better than anybody. There's no expiration date on a receipt. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's all good.
Since you brought that up, I owe you plenty of them because every time we wrestle, you kick me in my face. Like, find like random ways to kick me in the face.
Fair enough. You're right. My bad. It's all good. And see, that's also the funny thing too, man, is that in the pro wrestling business, you always get hurt or you get knocked up on the smallest minute things, and it always happens to be your buddies that do it.
Yeah.
It always happens to be your buddies, man. It's never anybody else. It's never anybody that you don't like. It happens to be like your best friend. So There you go.
So now, just going back to give people kind of a broad overview of what got you to this point of getting the DDT and whatnot, getting with even before Booker T, kind of explain like how you came into the business and how you came up with the name Ryan Davidson, or not man. The ruthless part. Like
so, basically, I'll just start from the beginning, man. Just try and cram this into a Reader's Digest version as best as I possibly can. I got through playing college football at West Texas A&M, and the significance of that is the same college that Dusty Rhodes, Bruiser Brody, Tully Blanchard, Tito Santana, Stan Hansen, and of course Terry and Dory Funk all played sports at.
Yeah, that's no kind of pedigree there at all. Yeah, it's not like you got a lot to live up to at that point. Holy shit, are you serious? All of those guys played football at West Texas University.
Most of them played football, and then I think Dusty Rhodes played baseball, and I like to think that Bruiser Brody did too. But yeah, they all played sports at WT. It was known back then as West Texas State, and it's out there in Canyon, Texas, and then it became West Texas A&M, I think in the early 90s or something. But yeah, I knew of Terry and Dory Funk when I was playing football there, but I didn't know about everybody else until after I left. So that was very interesting. So, the universe working for me, you know what I mean? Direct me into that path of pro wrestling. But no, man, I broke in Amarillo, Texas, man. I literally, the first wrestling ring I ever wrestled in was in the middle of an outdoor go-kart track off the side of the freeway in between Amarillo and Canyon, Texas. That's where I broke in pro wrestling. So
of all the places,
of all the places, man. I mean, it's funny because I tell all the younger men and women at Booker T's that they have this giant 20,000 square foot facility with all this workout equipment. It's literally like their own 24-hour fitness, and all these rings set up and everything. And I'm like, you guys have no idea how good you got it here.
Oh yeah,
because I would have gave anything to break into an environment like that. But anyways. I got my start there, and then I was wrestling out there for about a year and a half. I went to Oklahoma. There's a wrestler by the name of Cody Jones. He wrestles out in the Chicago area now. His father was Mr. Ebony Tom Jones, not the singer, the wrestler. I know everybody's all like, the singer? I'm like, no, it's not. Anyway, so Mr. Ebony Tom Jones, he's responsible for training just so many awesome guys, men and women, just all around the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana area. He's actually very well known for being one of the first black singles champions in pro wrestling in the South. He's had a lot of programs with Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, and he worked in the Portland territory back then in NWA and, Tokyo. He's wrestled all over the place. But unfortunately, he passed away about a few years ago. And he helped train me and really, sharpening my skills and what have you while I was living in Oklahoma for about 2 years. And that's another thing. Everybody thinks I'm from Oklahoma. I'm not from Oklahoma. I'm from Houston.
There you go.
Everybody likes to bust my rear end, bust my balls about it. And just like, oh, you're from Oklahoma. I'm like, oh my God, just shoot me in the face. I am not from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You see that?
There you go.
There you go.
Right there in the background.
Hook 'em horns.
That's
Yeah,
on my
I wouldn't
wall.
claim Oklahoma either. I fucking hated that.
Yeah.
I wrestled there twice, and I was like, never fucking again. I will not do that.
No love for Oklahoma here. Shout out to you, Jody Mania. Thank you so much for being with us, and to all you folks coming into the show here. Remember, you can get in on the phone lines. 832-937-4559 is the phone number if you want to chat with Ruthless Ryan Davidson here on the show. Texas is a home to the legends,
That
says
is
Juanito.
true.
Respect to the Lone Star State.
Yeah, actually, what people may not know, Ryan Davidson is the reason I came up with the benchmark gimmick. And I listened to some random
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
I listened to some random promo. I think this was back in the IWE days. And
Wow, okay, right on.
and something stuck out where you were talking about something. You were like, I'm the cornerstone of professional wrestling.
That's
And
right. I did see that.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? Fuck that guy. If he's a cornerstone, I'm the goddamn benchmark.
This
And
is all news to me. I've been hosting the show with this guy for months now.
That's how the benchmark was born.
No shit. Well,
Out of spite of Ryan Davidson, because I was like, fuck that. That's really cool. I mean, because what people, I advise anyone, go look up any of his promos. This guy, he could talk you into a building.
yeah, that's one of the things.
One of the best talkers there is.
And Ryan, in my short amount of time here, you know, I help out with Silky and the folks over at DZW here in Katy. And one of the things that I hear quite often when your name comes up is what a great promo you are. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you think it is that makes you somebody that's comfortable on the microphone? Have you always been somebody comfortable talking in front of people? Is it something that you had to work at? Because, you know, we always hear sometimes great talkers are born, they're not made, and other people will say it the other way around. You know, you can learn to be a great talker. Talk a little bit about you and how you've developed on the microphone over the years.
Yeah, man. You know, I can be honest with you. I wouldn't say that I've always been like a nervous guy. I've always been pretty shy, but I don't know, man. I think when it's that weird thing of, you know, when that red light's on that camera, like my nerves just go away. I don't know how to explain it. It just does. And, you know, as far as developing a good promo and what have you, I try and do everything that I can say on how I really truly feel. You know, and truly feel like if the character that I'm playing, Ruthless Ryan Davidson, the bear, right? You know, this guy is he's mean, he's nasty, he can care less about anything. And how would I share my emotion? How would I project that to the audience? And I always try and look at it from a consumer's viewpoint whenever I cut my promos. And it's never about what you say, it's how you say it. Because I think a lot of people think that they have to come up with like this crazy one-liner, or, oh, I got to say this awesome little catchphrase, when really, no, they just have to believe in what you're saying. And that was just something, a pinpoint thing that I was taught very early in my wrestling career, is that, you know, if they can believe you inside and outside the ring, then you'll have fans for life. So, and I just watched a crap load of interviews for years and years, man. I mean, I watched just as many interviews as I did matches, man, just because I knew that being good in the ring was one thing, but being good on the microphone, that was a completely different element. And I grew up watching wrestling, you know, where you had guys like Stone Cold and The Rock, and everybody was a good stick man. Everybody was great on the mic, and, you know, Ric Flair's like the greatest, you know, and just the list goes on and on. So, yeah, I think that's something that that'll separate you from most, man, is that, yeah, you know, you can always be taught the wrestling moves, and anybody can become a good professional wrestler with enough hard work. But, you know, whether you're really good on the mic and you can connect with the audience, not everybody has that. So
definitely something that helps you stand out. Now I want to talk a little bit about your trip overseas. Now, you just got back not too long ago from Japan, your first trip over to Japan, if I'm not mistaken, over with DDT Pro over there. One of the big questions I had in terms of what you experienced over there is, just from watching on TV, you get a sense that it's a much, much different audience overseas than it is over here. That it's a, you know, whether it be the lack of chanting and things like that, they seem to be a bit quieter. They seem to be a bit more, I don't know if you want to say respectful of the performers and what's going on. What's the biggest difference you noticed in the way the fans react to what's going on in the ring over in Japan as opposed to what's going on here at the States?
Well, I can tell you this from my experience, and, you know, and it's pretty much going to be the same when I go back over there in 2019, is, you know, the Japanese wrestling fan base is a lot more westernized than people think. They're a lot more reactive. Now, there's definitely some areas to where they're respectful anywhere and everywhere you go. I mean, the Japanese people, the culture is absolutely amazing. I admire it so much and on so many different levels, but they really appreciate the, how authentic like pro wrestling can really be, and I can tell you when I was in Tokyo wrestling that they're very reactive. They're reactive of not only just on the wrestling part of it, but also showing character, showing that flair, so to speak, and what have you. But a lot of the more prominent older towns and what have you, like Osaka, very quiet. They're just sitting there observing, watching your every move. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it doesn't matter how many times somebody will tell you that's been there, or they're just trying to prepare you as best they can. You will never know what you're getting yourself into until you're in the middle of the ring, and where you hit this great move or you hit this good sequence of maneuvers, a spot, and what have you. And the next thing you know, once you hit it, it's just nothing, and then you feel like, well, shit, did I do something wrong? Like, what's that?
Right.
But then the big thing is just, in Japan, they're all about the fighting spirit. And the fighting spirit is pretty much just how much can you take and still keep going? How much can you get over that never say die or never quit spirit, that attitude. And I can tell you this, like, you'd hit a big spot or a big move and then you go for a pin, the guy would kick out and they would react like crazy. Because, oh, he's still going, you know what I mean? And that was a big thing that was really, really different because here, in the States or in North America, it's just all about, slaps to the leg and just trying to get a reaction after reaction after reaction. And, slaps to the leg and things like that, I don't knock it by any means. I just think it's way overdone.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's just me. I can tell you in Japan, no one slaps the leg.
Really? Wow, that's surprising.
You're making contact on everything, so that's how it is. But I'll tell you this: there are Japanese performers, Japanese athletes are way more, they're way more relaxed, and they are way more accurate in everything that they do when it comes to their strikes and their wrestling and what have you. There's a lot of things that are in there, but there's a big misperception that everything they do is just so stiff and so in there and they're killing each other and this and what have you. Absolutely not, man. They're trying to take care of each other and trying to give out the best performance just like everybody else, so they can go home to their families and what have you and do the next shot and the next one after that. But, I mean, there are times, and whether you like it or not, this is pro wrestling. It's not ballet. So if you're going to get hit in the mouth, you get hit in the mouth. And that's why if anybody's seen me wrestle lately, I wear a mouth guard now because I got hit in the mouth in Japan, completely accident. And, some of the guys were telling me after the fact that, they had teeth knocked out and they had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on dental bills. And 90% of all the wrestlers there, men and women, they all wear mouth guards, all of them. So I was like, well, me spending about $20-something on a mouth guard to prevent $4,000 to $5,000 worth of dental surgery probably might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, probably a good investment.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I wear a mouth guard. There you go. So
tell me about the, not cultural, but like, how difficult was it to work with someone where the language barrier, where you guys don't speak the same language in most? I'm assuming not everyone there. So you work someone that didn't speak any English. So,
yeah, I'll tell you this. So, and I get that question asked a lot. I really do. And this was something that a buddy of mine, tag partner Rex Andrews, told me because he went to Japan before I did. He went to Wrestle One earlier this year, which is Great Muda's organization. And he was there for a few weeks. And he told me that, it's way easier than you think to call a match there. And I really didn't know what he meant by that, obviously, until I got there. And I can tell you this. Wrestling has its own universal language as far as, certain maneuvers, certain things to take. So that part wasn't too difficult. But what made it so much easier, and it's something that, going back to Booker T, he's always taught myself and a lot of other people that's been under his tutelage, is that it's not about you in there. It's about the match. And with that being said, your main job, whether a heel or a babyface, is that you got to make the other guy look like $1 million. You got to make the other guy look as good as you possibly can. Get your shit in when it's necessary. Yeah. And always look cool. But at the end of the day, you got to make sure that, you make that guy look as good as you possibly could. And I can tell you what, every Japanese performer that I competed against from DDT and other organizations too. They all of them put me first on what can I do to make Ryan Davidson look as good as I possibly can. And they got their stuff in on me too, and I sold really well for them, which is something that they were very big on. Besides my in-ring mechanics and knowing my basics really, really well. Because I tell all the younger guys and men and women that, if you have your basics down, you can wrestle anywhere in the world. And I am living proof of that. So it's one of those things. But calling a match was way easier than it was. And, like, I'm not going to lie. There's a couple times where I'd be like, okay, so maybe what is this again? And then you would kind of have to kind of paint the picture for yourself. And you go, oh, okay, gotcha. But like I said, everything went off without a hitch. And, I mean, just Japanese wrestlers, man, they're unbelievable. I mean, just the athleticism, just the tempo of the match, everything is just unbelievable, man. It really makes you step your game up for sure, because I totally had to. So
very cool. Well, folks, if you want to get in on the phone lines, don't forget 832-937-4559 is the phone number here, or you can let us know in the chat room if you got any questions for Ruthless Ryan Davidson here.
Our boy Mac Diesel said he saw you wrestle twice in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, of all places. Yeah, he was sad we were ripping on Oklahoma earlier, because that's where he saw you a couple times.
I'll say this. Here's the thing. The guys that I came up with in Oklahoma, man, they know that I love them, but the absolute best wrestling in the state of Oklahoma, bar none, is Compound Pro Wrestling out of Tulsa. And they've been around for a while, but they took over new management about 2 years ago, or it's almost 2 years. And that's actually been like the main catalyst for me to get to Japan, was because Compound Pro developed a pipeline with DDT Pro and what have you, and developed the business relationship there. And I was chosen to go. It wasn't any kind of favoritism or any of, I just happen to know somebody to know somebody. The DDT organization chose me to go, which I thought was really, really cool. And it made me realize, that I was doing something right. Because they could have picked anybody else that has came through there. And there's a crap load of awesome talent that's came through Compound Pro. I'm talking any kind of indie big name. Joey Ryan goes there a lot, but I mean, like Jeff Cobbs and the Tyler Batemans and and ACH has been there, what have you. And obviously he does New Japan, but I was chosen as one of the first 3 guys to go to DDT and just try it out, because they had no idea what to expect with me. Like they knew of me, but they didn't know me fully in depth, to be completely honest. And I was only guaranteed 6 matches when I was there, and I ended up doing 12 because I did so well. 12 events. So yeah, man, Compound Pro, I owe them everything as far as to get me to Japan and what have you. And like I said, I can't wait to go back in 2019. So it's awesome.
Excellent. Well, let me get back to, sorry, we lost you there on the screen for a moment. That was my bad. So let me ask you a question about, you mentioned your job being, you want to focus on the match, but your job is also to make the other guy look good. There have been instances, and I've talked with Silky about this, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on it as well. The one that comes to mind immediately is the whole issue with Austin Aries, and I don't know if you saw what happened with him dropping the Impact title to Johnny Mundo. Thank you, Get the Tables, for all the Super Hearts. We appreciate that. Welcome to you, sir. There have been instances where obviously something goes wrong, whether it be in the ring or behind the scenes, and you have a guy who, for whatever reason, just is not cooperating with what you're doing. Have you ever had any experiences like that? And if so, how do you handle something like that? Is that something that you handle in the ring? Is it something you handle after the fact? I would imagine that being with a guy like Booker T, even if it hasn't happened, it's probably something that you've had discussions about. Take those of us who aren't professional wrestlers into your mind when something like that is going on, and you've got some guy in there that's obviously, for whatever reason, going into business for himself and got his own agenda when it comes to what's going on in the match.
Yeah, man, for sure. And unfortunately, I have dealt with that a few times. And it wasn't anything on, let's just say it wasn't on purpose, coming to find out after the event happened and what have you. I've never had anybody taking advantage of me physically without me knowing about it, because I've gotten beaten up plenty of times in pro wrestling. So it is what it is. But I can tell you when something kind of like that gets out of hand, and protocol is not followed, because that's the name of the game. It's protocol. If it's your job to make somebody look as good as they possibly can, and you're going under that night, then that's your protocol. That's your job, because we're here to entertain the fans and make sure we can do it night in and night out. It's not about you. Not one person is ever always about the show. John Cena is not the WWE. He's just a big part of it. There's a whole bunch of other different elements that make the WWE, right? So as far as what Austin Aries did and what have you, man, that's something that I've seen it. I've seen the footage. I can tell you Austin Aries is a talent that I really like to watch, and I think he's been really underrated for a long, long time, and glad of all the accomplishments he's gotten. But as far as the discrepancies he's got between Johnny Mundo and the Impact office and what have you, that's something, man, that I was always taught, man, if you have any kind of difference, and as long as it's on the non-physical side, you handle that in the back. And you try and be as pro as best as you can 100% of the time in that ring. Because, pro wrestling is not ballet. It's very physical. So if a guy catches you and really, cleans your clock, so to speak, if you want to make sure and let them know, hey, you need to chill out on that, then feel free to deliver that receipt. But, other than that, like I said, it's not about just trying to one-up a guy or trying to hurt anybody. It's about performing to the best of our ability, giving the fans more than their money's worth, man, and just being a pro. So was Austin Aries a professional? I don't know. That's kind of hard to say. I don't think I would have done the same thing, but then again, I'm not in his situation, so I really can't answer that.
I feel like he wasn't, because just imagine like the situation. Say we're wrestling, you hit me with like the Davidson driver, pin me 1, 2, 3, and before you can even celebrate good, I'm up and walking out, flipping off the crowd. You'd want to beat my ass, right?
Well, that's actually happened to me a few times before.
Oh, wow.
And it's more the fact that the guy that I was working, he really didn't know, so to speak, and no one was available to pull him to the side. And here's the thing. Absolutely right. That's the thing. If I hit you with my finishing maneuver, you should be able to put that over and sell it, which that was the downfall of that match, right? If we were working, for sure. Yeah. But once again, I think, the old school way of handling it would be like grab him and just beat the shit out of him. And to me, I believe that's passe. I don't think you ever really need to put your hands on somebody unless it's absolutely necessary or you're being threatened in a physical way, some sort of fashion. As far as him walking off and what have you, was it professional? No, I don't think so. But then again, I can't really sit there and pass judgment on Austin Aries because I don't know the situation. If it comes to find out that he just did it because, hell, he felt like doing it, then of course that's a negative on him. But other than that, we're always going to have our assumptions. We're always going to have our takes on what happened and what it could be really is. But at the end of the day, you're paying attention and you're watching. So the next time that Austin Aries gets put in that situation or he gets put in another big main match and what have you, and they have that built up, they have that heat going into it, everybody's going to pay attention to what's going on. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's get to the phone lines here. We got Chris Surratt, a regular caller here on the program, ready to talk with you. What's going on, Chris? You're on with Ryan Davidson. How are you, buddy?
Oh, I'm good, man. Are you guys looking forward for Crown Jewel tomorrow?
We'll be checking it out for sure. Let me ask you, Ryan, let's get your opinions on it. There's a lot of people talking about Crown Jewel and whether or not they're going to watch, whether or not WWE should even be involved with what's going on in Saudi Arabia. How do you feel about the whole Crown Jewel situation?
I feel very uncomfortable with it. Very uncomfortable with it. It's one of those things that due to the events that's happened in Saudi Arabia, that we're going to go ahead and have one of the biggest events of the year with the biggest entertainment company pretty much in the world when it comes to professional wrestling going over there. It's kind of like walking on eggshells, man. It really is. I'll definitely be watching. I'll definitely be paying attention. I think any pro wrestling is great pro wrestling, to be honest with you, in most cases. But I'm not gonna lie. It's very uneasy for me, and I definitely don't blame John Cena and or Daniel Bryan for not going. But it's one of those things that WWE is always the main highest professional platform that you can showcase skills on when it comes to pro wrestling. And I feel like fans are going to say that they're not going to tune in. They're going to watch one way or another. So I never believe that to a T.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what we were saying on that whole situation as well. Chris, what were you going to say, buddy? Are you looking forward to it tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. Any particular matches you're looking forward to on the card?
Yeah, the three of them is the Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman for the vacant Universal title. DX fences the Brothers of Destruction, and the World Cup.
Yeah, the World Cup should be interesting. I'm interested to see how that plays out because, again, and Chris, thank you for the phone call, man. We're going to move on with Ryan here, but we appreciate you chiming in on the phone lines. Remember, the rest of you can get in as well, 832-937-4559.
That's 832-93 Silky.
You almost fucked it up there.
I almost fucked that one up.
Yeah, come on, silky shit.
But the whole idea of this World Cup, and we
so
had a bunch
fucking,
of American guys and Rey Mysterio. We're gonna throw in Rey Mysterio for
affirmative action.
Yeah, just because. So, anything in particular? Let me ask you this, Ryan. We got. It's the funniest thing because we talked about it on Monday. On Monday's show, we were just barely over a week from. I guess I said on Monday, who would have guessed that 8 days ago, two of the most sympathetic figures on wrestling Twitter would be John Cena and Roman Reigns. Roman, of course, because of the cancer diagnosis, and John Cena for the decision to not go to Crown Jewel. Do you think there's any lasting effects for either of those guys? I feel like Cena and Bryan are definitely in different boats. I think Cena's at a point in his career where if he never went to WWE again, it'd be just fine, and so would the WWE. I think Daniel Bryan's situation is a little bit different. Do you see any blowback for either of those guys in the future based on their decision to not go?
Absolutely not, man. I agree with you. I think John Cena has made the WWE, helped make the WWE what it is today. And I can tell you this: if he is, in any way, shape, or form, doesn't feel comfortable with his well-being and just feels like that his life is not in safe hands in any way, shape, or form, or he just doesn't agree with what's going on or what have you in that environment, I don't blame him at all. And I'll be honest with you, if I was contracted with WWE, if I had a choice to where it didn't would affect my storylines or my position within that company, I probably wouldn't go. I probably wouldn't go at all. But once again, like if they ask you to go, and that's your job, then you should. Other than that, you hear my dog barking?
Yeah, we heard the cat earlier. We thought it was a small child in the house there, but it was actually just your cat. So you got cats and dogs at the house? Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, so now you have an animal sanctuary.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Noah's Ark is in my house for sure.
Shout out to Tana over there at Bustin' for Autism. Thank you for joining us, and everybody else again for sharing the program over there on Periscope. We're happy to have you with us here with Ryan Davidson. Let me ask you this: you've been in the ring with some pretty big names over the course of your career. We mentioned not just the guys over at Reality of Wrestling. You mentioned Rex Andrews. We talked about Mysterious Q, guys like that. Is there anybody in particular that stands out in terms of you getting in the ring and saying to yourself, holy shit, like this guy is way more than what I expected? Anybody that really comes to mind when you think about some of the best guys that you've been in the ring with?
Yeah, man. I've been in the ring with a lot of great performers, man. And, top three, right off the top of my head would have to be Samoa Joe, Booker T, and Davey Richards. Those three guys that I was in there, I'm like, oh, this is what it's like to be in the ring with an absolute professional, and what have you. So those are three that come to mind. But I mean, as far as just on that level, man, there's a lot of great indie talent that I've been with. I've wrestled Joey Ryan quite a few times, Kikutaro. I mean, I've wrestled guys around the Texas scene as far as Cherry Ramon and Barrett Brown and Dirty Andy Dalton, and I mean, guys just going on and on. Nobi Bryant was a guy that, I haven't seen him forever. I just catched him at the last Texas All-Star show. He's great talent, awesome dude out of the Dallas area. Also, Bam Malone, and everything. But, that's a lot of the Dallas scene. But there's a lot of guys in Austin, too. And, like, another guy like Ricky Starks. Like, Ricky Starks is unbelievable talent. Jay Sirius, Steve Orino, who's a good friend of mine. There's a lot of people. There's also a lot of guys too, man. I mean, Wildcat, That whole roster out there in Louisiana with Luke Hawks and all those guys. I mean, they run an amazing show and just awesome talent. And a lot of guys up in the Northeast, you know, as far as like the new Heavenly Bodies that just got shown on Impact here recently. And a good buddy of mine, Mick Drake, and another guy, Devin Driscoll. And, you know, the list goes on and on. But as far as guys that have right off the top of my head that were just like, man, just kind of upping that game to the next level, it definitely would be those top three guys I mentioned right off the first.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now, go ahead and talk about just the difference of the PWA versus ROW, because a lot of people should know that he was there from PWA, did everything in PWA. Now, how compare the vibe with Booker T's PWA versus the Reality of Wrestling?
I was going to say, just for those of you that don't know, Reality of Wrestling now was PWA back then, and Ryan Davidson been there since day one. Had been there since the very start, or did you come on soon after?
So I was introduced into PWA. I was first known at PWA back when it started in 2005, but I actually didn't wrestle in PWA till I moved back to Houston, Texas in 2008. I moved back in 2007, but I didn't go until the summer of 2008. That's when I was with PWA, and then it transitioned to Reality Wrestling, I think around 2012, maybe 2013, I think.
I want to say 2012.
The years all blend together. Man.
Yeah.
So wrestler brain, it's all bad. But no, man, PWA. When I was there, when I first got there, I mean, it was just we were running out of the Pasadena Convention Center, and Booker was bringing in a lot of these high value, high level prestigious names every month, and they've always put on a great show. And then there was a lot of ups and downs, man. There were just like, I mean, we'd have shows to where we're drawing 1,200 people and things are going great, and then it gets to the point where we were drawing shows where we had maybe 50 people in the crowd, and it was like that for a while. And there was a couple of times, man, to where they thought about shutting, the school down and maybe moving to like once every 3 months doing a show. I mean, we're struggling, but we all kept plugging away and kept trying to put on the best product that we could and revamp and redevelop our fan base. And then, of course, rebranded into Reality of Wrestling, Booker's idea of doing that, I think back in 2012, 2013. And then it just took off from there, man. And it seemed like every year Reality of Wrestling's got bigger and better. And I take a lot of pride in being a part of Reality Wrestling because I helped build that organization. And that's not just something as a character Ryan Davidson would say. I mean, I literally put so much time and effort, and it definitely is a part of it is mine. And Book tells us this all the time, that it's just as much ours as it is his. And I truly believe that because we all sacrificed a lot, and we all cleaned, and we all, late nights of setting up the ring and tearing it down and not getting home till 4 or 5 in the morning. And just the list goes on and on, man. So I take a lot of pride being a part of Reality Wrestling, man. And regardless of where my wrestling career goes, and I know it's going to go far and beyond expectations of myself and others, man, I'm always going to be a part of Reality Wrestling. I'm always going to come down there and try and broaden some knowledge with the younger men and women that are there, and always help out. And I think, that's something that, as much as Booker has given me as far as knowledge and a platform to do what I love to do with Reality of Wrestling, man, that's probably in the smallest way I can actually ever pay him back, is just to keep helping out and keep making the brand grow and grow. So that's it, man.
Yeah, you mentioned cleaning up and everything like that, and it's, setting up the ring, tearing down the ring. I think, again, this is coming from somebody who was not a part of the wrestling industry until very recently, and even now just a very small part of it. I think a lot of us as fans have sort of glamorized what pro wrestling is all about, especially because, most of us watch it on TV. We see the WWE, we see the huge promotions and everything like that. But so much of what goes on behind the scenes at these pro wrestling shows, things like setting up chairs and setting up tables and setting up the ring and all that other kind of stuff, is actually the guys that are there that night doing the show. Take us into what goes on in Reality of Wrestling and just wrestling promotions in general. Give the fans an idea, if you could, about the not so glamorous side of pro wrestling. I mean, what are some of the other things that you're expected to do as a pro wrestler, part of a pro wrestling promotion, when you're working smaller shows and you're not necessarily on the WWE in front of tens of thousands of people? What's the expectation? What's it like outside the ring?
Well, definitely the expectation is if you're a part of the wrestling business and you definitely want to make something out of yourself in the business, then you need to be prepared for a lot of hard work and a lot of lack of sleep. And as far as the schematics of setting up a wrestling show, like, yeah, I mean, we do the exact same thing as the men and women at NXT do. They set up all the chairs. They set up all the equipment. They clean the ring. They clean everything. I can tell you every training session that we do at Reality Wrestling for 30 to 40 minutes every night, we clean the entire facility. That's wipe down the ropes, sweep, clean the windows, you name it, we do it. And it was the same way for me in Japan. It's taking pride in what you do. It's honoring your craft, honoring professional wrestling. And that goes in small, minute detail of picking up your trash and, cleaning certain things, having respect for your environment. It's not just about showing up and getting in the ring, taking a few bumps and then going home and then getting on Twitter and boasting about it. It's a lot more than that. I can tell you, there's been a lot of, when I first was in PWA, we would start probably at 9 a.m.
Yep.
just loading the ring into the truck, and we would not be through until 4 o'clock the next morning. And that's including wrestling, that's including setting everything up, tearing it down, driving to the facility, unloading everything, and then finally once we unload everything, to take our truck back at that time, because they had a U-Haul, now Reality Wrestling has their own truck. Like I said, you wouldn't be through till 4 in the morning. And we all did it because we love pro wrestling and we wanted to put on the best show that we could for all the fans. And I mean, I think that mindset goes for every organization, not just about Reality Wrestling. But I feel like if you really want to be good with pro wrestling, I mean, how you do one thing is how you do all things. And I feel like that's being the first person there, last person to leave, having respect for your environment, make sure locker room's clean, things of that nature. I know Booker told me a story one time about John Cena. Just the type of person that he is was on the fact of, he's working the main events and what have you. So he comes into the locker room one night and Booker just still happens to be there because he was on commentary. So he commentated the last match of the main event, and they walk into the locker room and there's trash everywhere. There's like rolled up wrist tape and there's water bottles and Gatorade bottles and all that stuff. And, it would have been nothing for the guys to just grab their bags and just, hey, I got to get to the hotel because I got to make the next town and go. But John Cena literally set his World Heavyweight Championship down and just started picking up trash and cleaning up in the locker room. And that's the type of guy that he is. And that's why John Cena is at the top level. And that's just something that myself and others try and bestow on anybody that comes to Reality Wrestling, and just really just, having just respect for what you do and respect for yourself. And like I said, how you do one thing is how you do all things, man. So that's kind of a small taste of what goes on behind the scenes of a wrestling show. Once again, it's just trying to put out the best content and product for wrestling fans, man, because, as the old cliche goes, without them, we wouldn't have pro wrestling, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the big things starting to work with you guys and just seeing everybody, because, my background is in film, and when the actors show up, like, they don't do shit except act, and that's what they're expected to do. That's their thing. Right. And I'm getting here and I'm like, these guys they're the performers. They're getting ready to put on the show, and they're busting their asses twice as hard as anybody else there.
Plenty of times when I was training with Tugboat, like, I'd show up to a show and it would just be me, Tugboat, and like one other person. And so we would be setting up the ring, and his ring was heavy as shit. It was all that he made himself, like he welded everything. So it was fucking heavy. But you just did it. Yeah. Like the short time I was at PWA before in ROW, it was like showing up and unloading from the U-Haul, like showing up at the storage facility, unloading everything, set for the everything, ramp, all that. And then taking it there, setting it up, then you wrestle, then you have to take it all down, put it back in the U-Haul, then drive back to the facility, put it back into storage at the time. I mean, it was just long work, but I mean, it was worth it. I mean, because you got to.
It was normal. It was
I mean,
normal.
one of the highlights.
What you wanted to do.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the highlights, I guess. No, not highlights, but one of the coolest like inner markout moments was actually after, I think, the second show I was there. Because remember, first show I was there, I tagged with you. We did that tournament thing.
Right.
And then the second show, I was at Booker T's, which I was surprised they even asked me back. They were like, "You're working Ryan Davidson." So I was like, okay, cool. And so I marked out to myself because it wasn't that good of a match as we've had. I mean, we've had a lot of really good matches, but when I was walking out, I happened to have gone over that night, and Booker T was like, "Welcome to PWA," and I was like, that was fucking cool. Like I totally marked out inside. It was the Kamala situation all over.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, man. You know, I can tell you one more thing on the cleaning up aspect, man. There's been quite a few nights, and you know, if he ever heard this, he'd probably get upset with me for saying this, but this is just the type of guy that he is. You know, Booker always tries to set an example, and it's, you know, it's not kissing rear ends. It's just showing respect where respect is there. And there's been a lot of times to where I've walked into that building to train that night, and I see Booker with his WWE Hall of Fame ring on, and he has a broom in his hands, and he's sweeping the floors. You know, just cleaning, just trying to make sure that the building is in top shape and what have you. And I'm just like, you know, he's a Hall of Famer. He didn't have to do anything. He could easily just point to somebody and go, "Hey, sweep this real quick." But nah, man, he sets an example of taking pride in what you do. And yeah, man, I agree with Silky, man. Like, we did a lot of late nights setting up and tearing down the ring. And you know, we got the new facility of Reality Wrestling, and we actually set up the ring where we didn't have to tear it down. It just stays up at all times. We literally just didn't know what to do with ourselves. We just stood around and just shot the shit, and we're like, well, I guess we'll go home. There's nothing to do. So, shit, okay. But I mean, yeah, man. I mean, it's a blessing, man. Just having the ring up is a blessing, because like how Silky said, man, there'll be times where it's you and literally a handful of people, man, and that's all you got. And those rings are not light.
Nope.
Definitely not.
And then Booker T has the whole shebang. Like, I never forget, like, it took like 3 people to move that bottom of the steps. Like, the top was like, all right.
Yeah.
That bottom was so heavy. Like,
Of the steps to get into the ring.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I was just like, what the? And I'm like, is this something different? Because I seen motherfuckers pick that up all the time, like over their head and throw it. Are they just like freakishly strong, or am I just weak? What is going on?
Yeah,
Like,
what's happening here?
It was crazy.
Well, Ryan, we're winding down here, buddy, but want to make sure that we got a couple folks asking what your schedule is coming up. So go ahead and tell the people what you've got coming up, where they can find you online. I know we mentioned your Twitter earlier at RDBear57. Tell the folks where they can find out more about Ruthless Ryan Davidson and where we can see you in action in the coming months.
Yeah, man, no, absolutely. Instagram and Twitter is at RDBear57. Of course, you can check me out on Facebook at Ryan Davidson. The shows I got coming up, November 10th and 11th. November 10th, Reality Wrestling in Texas City, Texas. November 11th, I'll be in Inspire Pro in Austin, Texas. I have a few other bookings in November. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head where they're at, so I can't say anything at the moment. I got some bookings coming up in December around the state of Texas and Louisiana and Oklahoma and what have you. But also, if anybody wants to check out any of the matches that I did in Japan for DDT, you can go to ddtuniverse.com, sign up for their streaming service, which actually costs less than WWE Network. I think with the currency exchange, it's about $8 and some change a month, and you pretty much get all the content that DDT has, and they have a lot of amazing content. But if you want to see what I did in Japan, go to DDT Universe and sign up for the streaming service.
Definitely. Well, we will definitely put that information out there on all of our social media as well. And, man, it's great to talk to you, Ryan. We really appreciate you making the time. Obviously, you stay very busy based on what we've just heard in the interview here.
Yeah, man.
So glad to hear it, man. Best of luck to you, and congrats on the Japan trip. Congrats on all the success up to this point, and best of luck to you going forward, man. I'm anxious to see where you go from here, man. It's looking like good things are in your future, so
And
Best of luck to you, man.
You know, you end up making it. I'm in your entourage. Just know that.
Yeah, Silky's already said it many times.
I got you. Tickets on the front row, not a big deal, man. It's already good.
There you go.
Well, now we got it on tape, Silky, so we're all good to go. Ryan Davidson, everybody, thank you so much for being with us, Brian. We appreciate it. Ryan, sorry, did I say Brian?
It sounded like you said
We're getting
Brian.
to the end of the show here, so I'm winding down.
I pulled some strings to get this guest in, and you fucked
up
his name.
I didn't
What
fuck
the
up his
fuck?
name.
Come on, act like you've been somewhere before.
Anything else, Silky, you want to get out before you continue this temper tantrum? And by the way, you wearing the Ric Flair Woo shirt tonight.
Yeah. And?
Again with that. Anything else you want to get out before we say goodnight to the people here?
No, just as always, actually this Saturday at the Katie's Elk Slide, you can catch me at DZW. I'm going to be whooping some kid's ass.
All right, then.
He needs it.
DZW Inc. on Facebook, at DZ Wrestling. DZWrestling.com if you want to find out more information on where you can see the benchmark. Our thanks to Ruthless Ryan Davidson for being with us here on the program tonight. For the benchmark, Silky Baines.
Yo.
Chris Speezak, we thank you so much for being with us here. We will see you Monday night, following Monday Night Raw, right here on the Speez and the Benchmark Show. Good night, everybody.